Hello, welcome to our Leaders Voices project. I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Fowler, CHRO for Worldpanel division, which is part of the Kantar Group. Andrew, hello.
Hi, Joe.
So I wonder if you could tell us, what are some of the challenges that emerged for you sort of early on during the pandemic, and particularly as we went into lockdown?
Well, I think it was a tremendous example of delivering on the art of the impossible, because before March last year, if anybody had told us that almost overnight we were going to get 26,000 people around the world working from home, I think we would have looked at them like we were crazy. So that, there was a very big logistical challenge around that. I think very quickly we identified that our managers and leaders needed help and support. And actually, so did our employees, because we started to hear very quickly about people struggling a little bit with work-life balance and mental health and all of those things that came with it.
That's really interesting, and we'll dig into the specific issues that you identified there. But I'm curious to know how, when you've got an organisation as large as 26,000 distributed all over the world, what kind of mechanisms did you put in place to actually enable you to listen to the business and actually capture that insight that you gained about the mental health issues that people were facing?
Well, we were in a good position there, and it was actually about accelerating the plans that we'd already got in place. So, we are a market research business at Kantar, and so looking at surveys around how employees are feeling is something that we're very comfortable with. What we had decided a couple of years ago was to move our strategy from being around employee engagement and just the annual employee engagement survey to a more always-on listening approach. And we'd got plans in place around moving to more ad hoc pulse type surveys. And so the global pandemic gave us a perfect opportunity to accelerate those plans. How people were feeling about the original move to working from home, and then keeping an ongoing conversation with them on a regular basis around how they were feeling, what their concerns were, how comfortable were they about coming back into the office, and getting into some of the specifics behind that.
So you already had the technology capability, you already had the kind of industry know-how of how to make sense of the insights that were coming from the organization, and the pandemic was a sort of a veiled opportunity, if you like, to actually transform the way that you were engaging with your employees and listening to your employees.
Absolutely. So we did have the platform there. We hadn't leveraged it as well as we could have done, and this allowed us to do that.
Excellent. And in leveraging it, you said earlier that you identified a particular challenge and a particular concern that was facing employees and managers alike around mental health issues. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So mental health was something that we had at a local level done bits of work around the world, but very, very sort of localized and focused on sort of well-being. But in terms of the pandemic, what we were seeing almost straight away in the surveys that we were doing were people saying they were starting to feel, in some cases, isolated, that balance of not having the boundaries between work and personal was a problem. A feeling of not having their supportive colleagues around them was a challenge for some people. So all of those things bubbling up in different ways. Interesting, though, consistently all around the world. Articulated in different ways, but the same themes coming through.
Great, thank you. And by kind of getting hold of that insight, by understanding what was going on in the world of your people and in their individual lives, you were able to then take certain actions and take steps to address those as an organization. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the interventions that you kind of created and then delivered as a result of gaining that insight?
Sure. So first of all, our talent learning and leadership team did a great job in terms of very quickly getting together some material to support our leaders and managers, both in how best to lead in a crisis, but also how best to lead and manage people virtually. And so equipping the managers with some basic capabilities and enhancing their skills there. We then recognised the need to do something more significant from a mental health point of view. So we launched a global campaign called We Are Here, which I've got the privilege to lead, which focuses actually on building a culture of mental health awareness, looking to destigmatize mental health, and providing tools and resources around the world to help people with that. Part of that campaign, we've also, in the last couple of weeks, launched a global employee assistance program. So every employee, every one of those 26,000 employees around the world and their direct families now has got access to a mental health counselling line and all of the other services that come with an EAP. So, it's a start, and we've also got a commitment to continue to build on that. So it's about starting a conversation and building on that momentum as we go across the year.
Fantastic. So actually having that that initial structure in place, which enabled you to listen to your people and hear real insight from them, and then actually doing something with that insight and taking these steps has actually really had a huge impact on the people in your organization. What major differences would you say these actions have made, the steps you've taken? What difference have they made to either to the organization or to people individually?
Well, I think we're at the start of that journey, right? We launched the campaign actually aligned to World Mental Health Day at the beginning of October. So we're building that impact. What we have seen already are employees around the world actually starting to be open about their own personal experiences. And the more that that's happened, the more people, their colleagues, become comfortable with doing that themselves. We've got people coming to us saying, they've already used the tools and the resources that we've given them, and it's having a real impact on them at an individual level.
Fantastic. So actually, even in what you just said then, what I love is that you said people are coming to you and telling you how the tools have had impact. And I may be inferring too much, but it seems to me that you'll have gained that knowledge and that insight because of the employee listening tools and resources that you put in place and were able to use at the beginning of the pandemic. So you're able to then leverage those tools on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. And it's what we're finding is it is about momentum. So one of the things that I think we did really well at the beginning of the campaign was do a short video which had 5 or 6 of our employees around the world at all different levels, just talking about their personal experiences of mental health. Some of that was their own personal experiences. Other examples were where they've been in the role of a carer to somebody suffering with mental health challenges. And I think probably as a result of that, almost straight away, you saw people in the internal social media platforms, and some quite senior people as well, openly talking about having mental breakdowns and how they've recovered from that. So, that encourages other people to say, I may be struggling with this at the moment, but there's this senior person over here who has quite openly talked about what they went through, how they recover, some of the tools that they still use to manage their mental health. It's sort of got to be all right to be a bit more open about that in this business. And if we can just affect a handful of people in that way around the world, then I think we've achieved something.
Amazing. Wow. What a fantastic place to sort of draw our conversation to a close. Andrew, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you today. And I'm sure people who watch this are going to get lots from it as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Joe.